Now you can hear me because I just turned on my microphone. Like I was saying, hello, good afternoon. It's good to be with you. We are round two of our congregational update webinar, and we have special guests with us today, Mr. Brian Leimkuhler and Pastor Mark Love, our senior pastor here. Brian is our congregation president, and so they're going to give us some updates and go further into depth about the May 4th letter that came to your home with different things going on at Trinity. And so we'll get going with that in just a couple minutes. So if you have questions or anything today as we're doing this, please text them to the number that's on your screen. Or if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, I will try to monitor the conversations there as well, just for the sake of being on top of things. So Pastor Love, Brian, you guys want to tell them what's been going on in your lives lately while I get things lined up on our end over here? Oh, thank you. I, I apologize. We're having a one-sided conversation here. Our tech support from across the hallway, Mrs. Love, came in and let me know that she could not hear anything that Pastor Love was saying or Brian just now. I've since unmuted them, and they would be happy to continue the conversation. Go again, Mark, Pastor Love. You were saying what's up with your life lately? Sorry about that.
I guess one of the things that Mrs. Love doesn't hear me, that's not necessarily a technical difficulty.
Oh, boo. But, it's probably the other way around, more likely.
I knew it was technical when she said she couldn't hear Brian. So, but no, we're doing fine. Family's doing good. Miss Diane is finishing up the 5th grade year here, and she's already with a lot of the other teachers trying to figure out how, when we come back next fall, how we integrate what they've learned for online learning and stuff like that, and busy with that. Natalie is waiting, our daughter's waiting for Best Buy to kind of let them back into the stores to be able to start working. And Seth is picking up a lot more hours at Chick-fil-A and so forth. And Isaac is finishing up his junior year of studies at Toledo Christian. And me, I'm eagerly awaiting my chance to get into the garden and plant. Brian and I were talking about waiting for the frosts to finish up.
Yes.
Other than that, getting ready for our 8th grade graduation as well. That will be this Thursday. So, Brian, you can share your goodies.
Yep. And so I've been busy working around the house, working on the cars. And I planted my peas last week, and I'm going to plant the rest of it here possibly after the big thunderstorm tomorrow that they're talking about. The rest of us are doing well. Sue's back is still giving her some pain, and so we're going to go see a doctor on this coming week down over in Akron, Ohio. And Christine has just finished up her junior year in high school, and I took her over to a friend's house earlier, and they're watching the senior parade in Perrysburg as it rolls through town.
Very cool. That's a lot of exciting stuff going on, and I know there's It seems like things are starting to return to, or we're getting hints of normalcy on the horizon.
Yeah, especially in the heavier traffic on the roads these days, it's kind of a return to the bustle and the hurry and everywhere. So it's good signs.
Yeah, definitely. So, well, the purpose of our meeting today is to go into depth about the letter that went to households of our congregation, dated May 4th, and we just wanted to cover some things that had happened since the pandemic prevented us from being together. So, beginning with worship and then rippling, well, beginning with school, really, and then rippling through worship and all the other things that we typically gather together for. Before we get into the meat of that, Pastor Love, would you start us with a prayer?
Absolutely, absolutely. Let us pray. Gracious and Almighty God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love and your mercies that watch over us. We give thanks, O Lord, that by your mercies we are here today, and by your mercies we are able to serve you as we serve one another, as we serve our community. As we take steps, O Lord, in your name and for the sake of meeting everyone's need for Jesus, we ask your wisdom and your guidance, your blessings, O Lord, that you might accomplish such things as are beneficial for us in these days and for the years to come as the saints continue to gather around your word. To that end, lead us now with hearts and minds dedicated to you and seeking, O Lord, how best to serve you. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you. And so, with that, we're going to dive right in and kind of just walk through that letter that went home. I in that letter, we kind of walked through, Brian walked through chronologically for us the things that have taken place. And so March 16th was a day that Pastor Love, myself, Deaconess Hibbard, along with Chairman of the Elders, Bernie Duchesne, and Brian, we met via Zoom, much like you're seeing right now, and had a discussion about our decision with worship and how it was going. So everything moved online at that point, and I think our original intended return to physical worship together was April 5th, Palm Sunday, and we've missed that for understandable reasons. But Pastor Love, you want to update us on where we're at with our worship and what's going on?
Yes, this is an update even from Thursday evening's discussion.
Tuesday evenings.
Right now,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, last Tuesday evening's discussion. As we begin to come out of this and so forth, and after much research and consultation on best practices from several different other states' guidelines for return to worship and the Ohio, as well as the Ohio district and the like, our plan is to return to worship May 31st. May 31st, that's a Sunday. And as we gather for service, all of our services, as we return all of them, contemporary included, all services will take place in the sanctuary. Now, the big question as to why is simply what I did not know and was waiting for information last Tuesday was from our building services on how we sanitize between services and after services the surfaces that we are going to encounter. And one of the things that they emphasized is if we were to use the gym or the like, everything has to be wet wiped down with a wet cloth. There's no sprays. Sprays do not work as effectively. If we're meeting in the sanctuary, it would allow, basically they have created the wipes that we would use. It would be non-caustic to the new finished surfaces on our pews and the like. And that what we'd be able to do is we have to wipe down the ends of the pews where people touch, and we have to wipe down the back of the pews for the full length of these wet wipe type antibacterials. This can be done in roughly 5 to 10 minutes if we have, and we need volunteers to help do that. That will allow us to easily finish a service, sanitize surfaces, and be ready for the next service. And so right now, what we're looking at is in everything in the sanctuary, and this won't be blended services or anything. We'll have our traditional services and we'll have our contemporary service and so forth. The configuration of these and the times, that's yet to be determined. Deaconess and I met with the praise team leader, Jerry Francis, this week to go over options and how best to accomplish this. And we hope to know something by the first of next week when the elders meet and we kind of finalize how things will happen. And coming to worship and exiting worship will be a little bit different, but basically right now, joyfully will come back. The other caveat to bear in mind with this is that these will not be communion services for the foreseeable future. We want to get to where we can safely do that for everyone involved, but we will continue to offer the small gathering communion services so people are able to avail themselves of the sacrament.
There was a question about potentially having people sign up and for whichever service it is. I think you know a little bit about that.
Well, at this particular point, our hope is to be able to do that. I want to get the logistics of that together with Pastor Climola through We Sign Up Genius, but a lot of our members, a letter will be going out next week to kind of inform everyone on all of this.
Oh.
But there's only primarily one of two ways, because our seating capacity, and thank you for mentioning that, Brian, our seating capacity for distance, to provide enough distance that's safe, we're going to be limited to just about 100 to 105 people per service. And so that's why we have to have you sign up or register, so we have a real sense of what our attendance will be. And you'll be able to find out what services are open through that. So that'll all be coming forward here and so forth as we move into this.
Very good.
So,
I'm gonna. There's a question that came up. What is going to be the recommendation or requirement on wearing masks for service participants?
That's a really good question. Deaconess has been doing a great deal of research on this regarding the need for it and the concern with regard to the expanding of air and the potentiality of, if you will, spreading virus potential or the like airborne. And one of the things, there's a concern, but at the heart of it is when we sing more forcefully, and the more forcefully we sing, droplets of water. It's kind of like if you've ever had somebody talking, and the more excited, the more loudly they talk, the more apt they are to spit. Little pieces of spit come out. Those are the things that would carry the virus. And so we're asking you, if you're comfortable, we would recommend that you wear a mask just to prevent those droplets while you're singing and so forth.
So masks will be recommended, not required.
That's correct. It's recommended. We're not going to require it. Our hope is, if you come and you'd like one, we hope to have some available.
Very good.
To accommodate.
Yeah, very good. So another question that came up is, if you're feeling ill or you have any symptoms, how do you participate in worship? We are going to continue to offer our live stream of our services, so you can still participate even if you're not comfortable coming out, if you feel like you're at risk and don't want to put yourself in harm's way. We support that, and we will assist you by doing what we've been doing with online services. Our services will take place, and we're going to live stream what we're doing so that they'll be available for you.
Yeah. Do not hesitate if you're not comfortable coming out. Do not hesitate to stay and continue to follow the online.
Absolutely.
That's what it's there for.
Very
and
cool.
It sounds like there's going to be a lot more details worked out when you work with the elders, and the details will be sent out to all the members via letter. And
yes, sir.
And will there be any information on the website? Do you think we'll put information there?
I don't think that's probably going to, of course it's going to be up there. Yeah, we'll put it out on all of our channels, in email, on Facebook, and all of the conversations we have. We'll make sure, we probably will even do a heads up webinar just to know people what to expect so that they can see. But
that's what I was wondering.
All that information will be distributed in our usual channels.
Good.
Yep. So
very likely, if it's possible, Pastor Climola and I haven't talked, but if it's possible, we might kind of walk through those details next Sunday after services, as during the time we normally set aside for Bible class. We have our largest participation of our membership. It'd be a great time for it. So.
Excellent. So that was kind of the first thing on the letter from May 4th, was the kind of just letting the congregation know about something that everybody was already aware of, that we suspended on-site worship and also the we transitioned everything to online, and we're going to continue doing that for the foreseeable future. Our online Bible studies have been well received, and our plan is to continue doing those through the summer. So lots of good things. The school's been able to continue providing their services to our school families, and we rejoice in the talents of the principal and the teachers that have been adapted to these days. And I know plans are being made for different contingencies so that we can continue our services even into the fall, no matter what our situation looks like at that point. So the next thing that came up in the letter was March 25th, Trinity applied for a payroll protection plan. And so this was a grant. Many are familiar from hearing about it in the news, that the federal government made available for businesses, organizations, nonprofits, such as we are, that have been or anticipate being negatively impacted by the pandemic prohibitions, so to speak. And so Trinity did apply for that, and we received that $208,100, which we applied for, and that loan will be converted to a forgivable grant as long as 75% is used for maintaining employees on our payroll without furloughing them. And so Brian, you got anything to add to that? What else is going on with that?
Right now, we utilized a portion of that for the last 2 weeks of April. So we've already used part of that, and more or less the month of May will cover the rest of it, and there'll be a little bit at the very beginning of June. But we will use all of that for the payroll. It covers the salaries and most of the benefits, the healthcare and things like that. And like you said, 75% of it per the government says it needs to be utilized for payroll. The other 25% could be used for utilities, but our utilities are low right now, and that's what a lot of businesses are finding. It's their payroll. So we have not furloughed anybody. We've maintained everybody on the payroll, and so we're doing that. And once we're done with this money, we will then be applying for the grant to be a forgivable grant. And then once that's all done, then we'll be done with it.
Now, Brian, I heard something I saw this in the news. I should have talked to you about this offline, but I saw that organizations that applied for less than $4 million were considered to be a good faith participants in this program. Have you heard anything about that?
No, I have not.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry. Like I said, I should have asked you off the air, but we'll look into that.
A couple of things to be mindful in applying for this, if you were wondering. Both the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, our church body, the leadership recommended that congregations make use of this, avail themselves of it, as well as our district, local district offices as well recommended it. It's especially beneficial for congregations with schools that have a larger staff. And one of the things that the leadership committed to during this time of furlough is our non-called people, our non-salary people, our hourlies and the like. They could not draw unemployment benefits, or we don't pay that, and they know that when they hire in, and so they would have no recourse to go and apply for, if you will, unemployment benefits. So myself and Brian and Keith sit down with the bookkeeper and Pastor Clemmel and discuss the issue along with Jim, and it was our decision to provide them with income based on an average of a 6-week period they had worked to finish out the school year and so forth. So the last payroll for them will come mid-June as they finish up the month of. That's what part of the money was used for. The other thing I want to encourage you to is, while this money is a great blessing to us, we do still need your offerings to continue to support the active and very ongoing ministry that we are seeking to carry out here, and especially as we move into these summer months. So thanks for your support, and just please keep it coming.
Yeah, and I was going to say, not only do we need them, but we appreciate them. We at our March meeting, our April meeting last month, we asked the treasurer if we'd seen any negative impact, and at that point we had not seen any negative impact. And And just talking to Brian yesterday, I think the impact that we're seeing is, I won't say negligible, but we rejoice that the giving continues among us to support the work. But as Pastor Love said, we do need that giving to continue to make sure we carry on with the work here.
What I wanted to bring up was that the payroll protection plan, we were able to get into the first round, and that's how we were able to get the money as quickly as we were able to, because we applied for it almost as soon as it opened up. And you probably heard on the news that a lot of it was gone by the end of the week. We got notification the following week after March 25th that we were actually approved on the first round. So we didn't have to wait for the second round to come through. And that's why we were able to get our money earlier than some other businesses.
And kudos to you, Brian, for being on top of things along with our bookkeeper, Pat, to make that happen for us.
Yes, and Keith was involved with that also. So it was very much a team effort to get this all coordinated and make sure that we covered all of the bases to make sure that we could take advantage of this.
Yep. Very cool. All right, so I haven't seen any questions come through about the PPP or the LMNOP or anything else yet. So moving on down the letter, we got the next thing that was discussed there was an update on the capital campaign. And so to date, we have completed the HVAC. The HVAC work is all but completed. If I'm not mistaken, all that's left is for the installers to come back and balance the system once we start the air conditioning season, which is within weeks, I hope, because it's a little warm in here. But so that's the HVAC system. So that portion of the project is done. The sanctuary renovations should be done a week from today. I'm anticipating. We saw the carpet being laid this week, and we saw the sound system being installed. So that is an update from Tuesday night, where we were anticipating the carpet had been stuck in Detroit for over a week, but it made it through and got to us, and so too our AV installers were on a COVID break, and they returned to work this week, and we were at the top of their list. So they've been working on getting the sound system in the sanctuary up and running. So those two portions are done. Any things of note about those portions we should talk about, or? I think everything went pretty according to plan. The HVAC and the sanctuary came in at $1,246,000, and they were within budget, very very close to budget. Slight overage, but that was a thing to rejoice in. So the next part of the renovations and the building campaign is the restroom renovations, which are actually ongoing right now. They did start at the beginning of the month, but before they could start, we kind of had a little bit of a hiccup we had to get through.
Let me address something associated with the HVAC. One of the things that the news has identified is that they want people to be outside with fresh air, because with the fresh air, if you're in a building which has recirculated air, you have a greater probability of a virus being spread. While if you have fresh air in and out, you have a reduced chance of it. The nice thing that we didn't realize, but we knew we needed to do it, was for the 1958 and all the classrooms down to the sanctuary, the HVAC system replaced all of those and enhanced the fresh air intake. Like the room I'm in, which is just across the wall from Pastor Climola, where it's a computer lab, and I'm in the high school classroom, or the high school room here, is that we put in all this ventilation here. It never had outside air intakes. It does now, which is all those classrooms, the older sections now have fresh air intakes, where before they had degraded and they weren't working properly. Now they all work nicely. So that's going to be a benefit that's going to help for our school and for the church and for everybody, is that we can bring in a lot more fresh air.
Definitely. Very cool.
So yes, and the HVAC came in. I didn't bring my number right with me, but yes, it came in right close. It was actually a little bit less if you included the 10% contingency fee on it. But overall, it was right within a good budgeting process.
A large percentage of the overages just came by the cost increase over a year's time. And the sanctuary had a couple of things, especially an additional row of lighting and the pulpit lectern upgrades that were done. Those were not a part of the original bid, and those were included. So that all added to it, but within the 10% of both HVAC and the sanctuary, we're still including the contingency
Right on budget. Whoops. Oh, it's changing.
Yeah, I just thought I'd bring up the numbers since we were talking about them. So
Yep.
this is where the HVAC renovation completed out. That was projected in 2018. This was the actual cost. The variance was, as Pastor Love was just mentioning, within lines for inflation over the original projection. The big variance we had was the sanctuary renovation, which was 75,000 over, which is roughly 15%. 5% of the overage is due to the escalation of the costs. And then the other 10% of the overage that came from these items right here, the lighting controls, the lighting fixtures, center row of lights that was not originally anticipated, but in order to have even lighting throughout the sanctuary, that was deemed to be a essential addition to the lighting plan. The lights in the side windows, which really accent the much better accent the stained glass than the previous fluorescent bars that had been back there. And then the lectern and pulpit and the raising of the baptismal font, that woodworking was not fully anticipated cost, I should say. It wasn't fleshed out till we got into it, and then the wood flooring as well. And but with all this overage, we were still joyed once we got to the end of this section. We're within the contingency overage, and you can see that we're just $1,100 over what was anticipated in 2018 by the end of the cost due to asbestos not costing as much for that removal. Permits were included with some of the bids that we had got, and even with overage on unanticipated or unbudgeted legal fees that helped out our building committee members, we were able to come in really close to budget on that. Anything to add to that?
No, do have one thing, is that the cost for the HVAC and the cost of the sanctuary, those estimates, or those are the costs that we have a pretty good feel that's what it will take to our projection to pay for. We have not paid all the bills yet because they're still finishing up the work. So we're expecting the bills for the HVAC to show up in probably the next month, and the sanctuary probably a month after that. That all the bills will be in associated with those, but our projections are to be right in line with those numbers right there.
Because the what is to come in is actual contracted actual amounts on documents.
That is correct.
So,
it's
no
all
surprises.
Right. We have no surprises, and everything that if there was a change, it's already incorporated into those numbers. So we've already gotten those taken care of.
One big thing to add here is many and much thanks to Ed Muntler and Al Pills for watching over this and day by day just monitoring, and when things seem to go askew to really call into question and hold feet to the fire when necessary, and really fighting well and working hard for Trinity. They've been a blessing, and I look forward to their continuing to bless through the restroom renovation.
And like Pastor said, Climola, was that they started installing the carpet. So the carpet on the 3 aisleways are laid down. They're working on the carpet up front. They will finish it up next week. And the sound system people were in also. So the carpet is looking beautiful, and the lights make such a world of difference in there. You won't believe it until you get in.
It is so awesome. I can't wait for everybody to be in the space. You guys got a glimpse of it on Easter Sunday, and so it looks even better now with the further work, and it's going to sound even better with the sound system. So we're just chomping at the bit for May 31st to get here for us to all see it in person together. And if everything goes according to plan, I'll give a little spoiler alert here. We're hoping to give you a picture of it next Sunday, not tomorrow, the 17th, but hopefully May 24th. You'll be seeing the sanctuary for our Sunday morning live stream services in it, kind of a step into the being back in there for everybody on the 31st. So.
Yep. Pentecost.
Yeah. Great Sunday for the church. All right, so this comes. Honestly, this is probably the ugliest part of the letter that Brian had to let the congregation know. The council was faced with a difficult decision because everything, like as we've shown, was within budget, but it turned out that the projections that were made as far as the income and the projections were appropriate. The income did not fall dramatically in the campaign. That wasn't it, but the timing of the bills and the timing of the financing for the projects that were ongoing led us to the point where there was a stop or go decision that needed to be made for the building committee to continue with the bathroom portion of the renovations. And what it came down to was that the cost of completing the work for the restroom renovation was going to put us past the financing that the congregation approved. So in the voters meeting in 2019, the voters approved the campaign $1.25 million to be utilized for the campaign purposes. We realized it was made clear that we were going to run out of that allotment. But the good news, or at least the idea was, or what was being considered, is that LCEF, when they approved the loan, they actually approved us for $1.41 million. And so the council was faced with this decision. Do we put the project on hold till the giving catches up with that window that we can make use of the allotted loan amount? Or do we just say, no, finishing the projects in a timely manner is more important, and we will do our best to get that done within the approved loan amount? I think I'm saying that fairly. Pastor Love, Brian, would you like to correct me while I look for a document to help us see that?
So on the second, or on the back side of the letter on page 2, the council struggled through a special council meeting relative to the two options. The two options was that we were given kind of a mandate from the congregation, is that do the debt reduction, the renovations, and create the cash reserve. So that was kind of the big one of, we want a project done. The other part was, we said, try to do it with less than this amount of money. So we were kind of struggling between these two, is that for us to do all of the renovations, we had to exceed the 1.25 million. I went through the math and through the spreadsheets, and if we delayed it, it was going to cost us more money. From just delaying it a year would be another 5% most likely for increased cost of materials and labor. But also the cash flow of the way the money was coming in from the Sims campaign is that we would not be able to keep ahead of it and have enough money to pay for it in a year from now, unless we did not pay back debt. And we didn't feel that was a usable option, because we wanted to meet all the criteria. So by taking some money now from the Sims campaign and putting it towards the restrooms and increasing our loan limit, we will be able to get the restrooms done here in the next 2 to 3 months, along with all the other renovations that are finishing up. We will also get all of our debt repayments that we had spelled out, and those will be paid off in the next year to year and a half, and we will maintain a positive cash flow all the way. Now, what it leads us is that we will have a bigger loan amount at the end, but we will also be accelerating that payment. And as we said, we would also be starting up a new campaign at the end of these 3 years to go for long-term debt reduction of that, to accelerate that payoff.
Which was something that was already part of the plans. It was understood that there would be a hangover, so to speak, at the end of this first campaign, and that we would continue to kick those debts away moving forward. So,
and we're really following in the footsteps of our forefathers at Trinity, when they had stepped out in faith and built what we know as our gymnasium, the church offices, and the extra classrooms back in 2000. It had a campaign to eliminate their debt, and they had their original campaign to begin this construction. And after that campaign, they still had $1 million of debt, and they went ahead and had another campaign. And within 4 to 5 years, they had eliminated that $1 million of debt, just stepping out in faith and in love. And there today, our needs for Jesus are being met, and kids that that come to our school is being met in the same way. And it's just a joyous thing to be a part of that ongoing community and body of Christ, that what we do for today, we do for the sake of those who are today, but for those of tomorrow. And I want to come back to one of the big savings that will come into this. If we would have had to carry the construction loan for another year, it is a significantly higher interest rate than being able to convert to a mortgage. It comes in at a lower interest rate. And that's the other advantage that we will have. Another thing that kind of, it may be a little in the weeds, but by June, we will have eliminated the line of credit that was once $180,000. That will be gone.
Yeah.
That's how blessed Trinity has been with those who've stepped up and given faithfully. And I just kudos to Brian, and especially Lee Grau, who looks over this and takes track of everything, and Brian, who's kind of the follow-up on this. But it is a scary time, but the thing I think to rejoice in is council was asking or struggled with the issue, as Brian mentioned. Do we take this step that the congregation said they wanted to do, to complete these renovations for the sake of the saints today and the saints tomorrow as we meet their needs? Or do we say, no, we can't, because of this, that we can't go that far we can't use all of the debt that we have in. And the commitment was, the vision the congregation had adopted was to get it done. And the council was led by that and by your gift and your goodness in supplying and providing in this capital campaign, doing immeasurably more than we could think or imagine. Brian, I want you to clarify one thing in the cost, if you would. A member asked the question, when you looked at the numbers of the total that it would take and the amount of the loan, they look like they're different.
Yes.
And maybe you said that and I missed it, but can you clarify why the restrooms are going to cost more than we're borrowing additionally? And and maybe you did say it, and so then just say, Pastor, you weren't listening, and do it. But could you explain that?
Yes. Pastor Kleinwald, could you go back to the other document?
I think so. Is this the one you're talking about here?
Yes, at the bottom there. So right now you see the projected cost for actual 2020 at 1.481 million. Our loan limit from Lutheran Church Extension Fund is limited to 1.416. So there's about $75,000 difference. Where are we making that difference up is that the Sims campaign has that money on hand, and that's what we're sending to Lutheran Church as part of our escrow that they will use to help pay for the cost of the restroom, so that we will not exceed our loan limit.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And when you're putting the numbers together, they don't quite jive. And I appreciate you. I just want to make sure that we clarified that.
You're right. Now, one other thing associated with this is the restrooms. So everybody knows where the men's and women's restrooms were. They're going to be swapped, but they've also expanded about another 6 to 8 feet into what was the shower room area. Now, that's going to be the restrooms, but this cost here is just for the restrooms, including that shower section. But the locker rooms are not going to be done at this time because that cost was even more. So we are planning ahead and putting in the plumbing that if we want to in the future to add showers into the locker room area, we have that plumbing available to us when we get to that point. But for right now,
I want to clarify, Brian. I understand what you're saying, but we're not renovating showers. Basically, 2 of the showers have been subsumed into what will now be the total restroom areas.
You're correct.
These are the restrooms that are right by the cafeteria.
Yes, it's very cool, and so it's going to look a lot different in there. One of the big noticeable differences will be that the girls' bathroom will be where the boys' bathroom was, and the boys' bathroom will be where the girls' bathroom was. And footprints and ADA compliance and all sorts of factors were involved in that. But yeah, we're looking forward to seeing the completion of that project. There's Brian holding up the I think he took that picture today of the present condition of the bathroom in there. And if you saw the picture on Tuesday night, there was half a wall there and some pipes hanging down, and it looks like they got all that cleared out. So work is ongoing on there, the demolition stage of that, before they continue with the construction. I want to back up real quick and just make clear one thing. The council did not want to make this decision up or down. They would have rather that this congregation, this decision would have been made by the voters of the congregation, as this is a voters issue that they've really literally gone against what the voters had said back in the April 2019 voters meeting, and the council was very reluctant to do that, but due to the pandemic constraints, we could not have a voters meeting, and so the council took a lot of time going through this, and they made sure that they were doing things for the best of the congregation, being good stewards of all that we've been given to do here. And it was determined, it was the consensus among the council was that this would have been the voters' outcome. And as representatives of the congregation, I am very impressed with their the way that they walked slowly into this, and they didn't just rush and say, "Oh yeah, we need to do the bathrooms, and who cares about the loan limit? Let's make it happen." They actually weighed the costs and the outcomes, and came to this conclusion. So much thanks to the council members for wading through this and making this decision on behalf of the congregation, and moving us forward with that.
Now, one additional item, I was reading a Facebook question relative to the locker rooms. One thing we did with the HVAC in the cafeteria area, we had problems with water coming down in the restroom right off of the kitchen that the cooks would use. And then also in the locker rooms, we've noticed there's a lot of wet spots there. We think that the old HVAC was leaking condensate water from when it was in the air conditioning mode. So one of the things I'm going to talk with Ed and Al later this week is what we can do to take out the dead ceiling tiles from that section, just so we get them out of here. But they are not part of the restroom renovation. But I wanted to just let the person know that, yes, we got your comment, and we will check into that.
Thank you
see
for
what we can do.
Thank you for that, and that's really what we hope this is if you're watching this right now and you have questions, let me switch our screens back over so that you can see what things look like. If you want to give us a call, please do so. I think I got to stop sharing my screen. There we go. So if you want to give us a text message, if you have questions, put those up on YouTube if you got them. Text them to my number, which you can see on your screen there. Or if you're watching on Facebook, questions can come in there. We really want to make sure we're not leaving any stones unturned. And I think we've covered all the questions that came in live on Tuesday night. There was a little bit of confusion about which restrooms we were renovating. And they are the restrooms that are by the cafeteria, the oldest in the building. The original 1958, is that correct, construction?
That is correct.
So, so it's quite a thing. That we're able to say goodbye to those and looking forward to having new ones. It's going to be a blessing for us in a lot of ways.
Yeah, to have wheelchair accessibility in that end of the building is
right.
It's an awesome thing.
Yep.
Oh, and that's a good thing to bring up. We are making these restrooms ADA compliant. So
Some people may not know what ADA is. That's why I was doing it.
Yeah, wheelchair accessibility, ADA is the American Disabilities Act.
Disability Act,
Yep.
yes.
So
that's why they've ripped out the walls, even where the drinking fountain was. It's all gone because they have to put in bigger doors and everything. And so it's just going to be so much nicer. There'll be new drop ceiling, a lot of LED lights. All the partitions will be hanging from the ceiling and not from the floor. Wall hung toilets, urinals, sink, everything will be off the floor.
The nicest bathroom in the building. We're going to be lined up to use it. Anyway, so let's go on in the letter here. After that, since I'm not seeing any questions coming through, and if there are things following up after this, we're not done talking about it. If you do have questions that weren't covered, please let us know. But we had kind of a big deal happened a couple weeks ago. Pastor Love, you want to tell us what happened?
Yeah, I'd say it's kind of
a big deal.
It's a very exciting thing. Is back in the fall and through the fall and so forth, congregation, we were leadership and congregation. We were looking at all the ways in which how we could meet. This stems all the way back to when we were doing the survey of Trinity's needs and so forth. And it's something that I had coordinated with the Hartford Institute for the survey, and we had a lot of people involved in it. We had a high percentage of participation. And the one thing, the results, the elders spent almost a year digesting the results. And the main thing that was identified that was needed was a ministry to our families, our school families, church families, and an outreach to our community. And with all of the other things that were prioritized needing to be done, Pastor Klimola and I are dedicated to those, but there's just not enough of us to go around. And so the recommendation to best fill those needs was to call a third pastor.
So what happened 2 weeks ago?
Well, I know, I'm just coming to the point. Give me a minute. But the reason I want to emphasize this is I think is such an awesome thing. It's back in January for any of this COVID stuff started. The congregation voted to step out in faith and call a candidate from the seminary. We specified two, and it was up to God then if we would get these. Well, then 2 weeks ago, we found out that God said, you need a third pastor. I'm sending you a third pastor, and his name is Jonathan Rushi. And he is currently pastor-elect, graduated yesterday from Concordia Seminary in St. Louis. And so we have another associate pastor coming to bless us, and we look forward to that. In fact, I can tell you, kind of a little bit of ahead of the stream, but he, his fiancee, and his mother are going to be arriving Wednesday this week. They'll kind of do he's doing a housing search right now for him. And one of the joyous things we learned last week, too, was that he and his fiancee, I think last Saturday,
Monday.
got engaged. His girlfriend got engaged, so we're rejoicing with him. So he wanted to be here and just observe the 8th grade graduation on Thursday while he's here. And so we're real excited about God blessing us with him and his coming on board.
Yeah, so looking forward to having Pastor-elect Rushi, and as Pastor Love mentioned, that is the official title. That's the way you can either call him Candidate Rushi or Pastor-elect Rushi. I know some have asked about the terminology once he's ordained, which ordination I believe will take place at the beginning of July.
Yes. His ordination and installation will be the first Sunday in July. And just a little background, originally he was hoping to be ordained in his home congregation. It's a great thing. They've supported him through his studies at Concordia, Chicago, or River Forest, and through the seminary. But their congregation is not able to return to worship until July, and it would push his ordination back. And he was wanting to keep a commitment to be here as early as he could to get ready for the school year with us. So we've chosen that route. I've invited him to ask his pastor from St. Paul's in Evansville, Indiana, to serve as the preacher for his installation. So we'll see where that comes and the like. But that's when he will begin with us. So the interesting thing about candidate elect is he has received a call, and that means he's elected. Confirmation comes in the rite of ordination when the church acknowledges the call and says, yes, you are the man for this congregation. And he moves from one elected to one now installed, if you will, or ordained into that office.
Very cool. Go ahead, Brian.
One item is, are we able to provide a status update on the kindergarten?
Yeah, that actually just came through. It's like you're reading the mind of the people who are texting me. But yeah, Pastor Love, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, we're thrilled to death that one of our own who journeyed all the way through Trinity at our school, Betsy Stacy, she has been hired to serve as our kindergarten teacher. And it's really awesome. The teacher that taught her will help her transition into this kindergarten position, and we're just very, very excited. It's an awesome thing.
Yeah, so regrettably but understandably, Mrs. Shirley's moving on at the end of this year, and so we will be welcoming a familiar face. Betsy's just graduated from University of Toledo with early childhood, and a product of our own, and that's kind of cool because a number of our teachers that have been around in years previous are, daughters of the congregation, and such a beautiful thing to see that continuing.
Yeah, Shirley, Karen Shirley will be muchly missed. She's a gift from God, and I know that she was saying the other day she was in Zooming with all the kids. It's really wonderful to watch her Zoom with all the kindergartners and so forth. And they're so well behaved for her. You know, they wait and they listen to each other. But she goes, I sure hate that. She was telling me that she said, I sure hate that the year ends this way. But her last Zoom with the kids before she goes, she goes, none of us are going to say goodbye. We're just going to say until I see you again.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, so we've covered the letter. The last thing on the letter was talking about return to in-person worship services, which we covered at the beginning. We're looking at May 31st for that, Lord willing, and then we announced that we're going to have a webinar, which is stale information because you guys are watching this right now. So, Pastor Love, President Leimkuhler, anything that we need to cover before we move on with our day?
More information will be coming out as details, which Pastor Love and the elders will be putting out relative for services. And I want to thank the council and the bookkeeper and everybody that's been working behind the scenes to keep the mission of the church, which is to reach everybody in the community with the word, which the streaming is incredible because we're now reaching not only just within Toledo, we're reaching outside of Toledo, and people are seeing us. And it is something that is going to improve and expand, and is a new little mission that we can work with, along with our major mission, which is our school. So we have local and remote capabilities of spreading the word of God to our members and to our community.
Yeah, it's exciting to think of all the ways that we will be able to stream our school activity out to the world as well, so that our major mission work channels through our little mission work to. The only other thing I would share with everyone is you hear all kinds of buzz and so forth on all the avenues of media as about coming back to worship or why or this or the like. A couple things I just want to make sure you understand. Uppermost in our hearts and mine, Pastor Climolas and Deaconess, as we think about that, and Jerry Francis too, as we were meeting this week, is your safety. Your safety. We want you back in worship. We want everyone back in worship. But we're dealing with a very unseen issue that we don't have to cower in the corner with, but we need to walk respectfully and if you will, in a right, shall we say, circumspectly, as Peter uses the word, for the days are evil. Well, so is this, and so we're not reckless, nor are we cowering, but we're trying to faithfully bring it back to a place where we're together as the body of Christ, gathered in one place, though we're spread now, and so forth. So safety's been the goal, and coming together is also a secondary goal to that. And just pray God can continue to bless our efforts to do that, but also basically drive back this virus and protect and defend all those battling it, but those also on the front lines trying to keep safe in hospitals and various medical arts throughout. Just we miss you very much, and look forward to seeing you and so forth, and just rejoicing together again, the body of Christ in His house.
Definitely. Well said, and I think that's a good note to end on. I just a couple of announcements we'll make afterwards, but Pastor Love, would you end us with prayer?
Absolutely. To that end, we pray. Gracious God above, we thank you again for this day and for this time, and for the saints that you have gathered into this place. As we continue to attend to the ministry, that it may continue, that it may prosper, we ask your blessings upon the saints, those who serve and those who are served, and those who are yet to be served. Bless us and all things that we do, O Lord, to your glory, and indeed to the building up of your kingdom among us. Bring us together again into your house for worship, for praise, and indeed for receiving the good gifts of our salvation, that we may share them with one and all as they have need of Jesus. To that end, bless our afternoon, our evening, and our day tomorrow as we shall gather again for worship. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Love. Thank you, Brian, for your time and sharing with us. And thank you all for being there on the other end. I'm going to switch over just a few announcements as we continue with the our time together. Let's see. I got to make sure you can see me here. But the good news on the pastor coming our way. Looking forward to meeting Pastor-elect Rushi this week in person. So Pastor Love said he'll be here later this week, kind of looking for housing and getting a feel for Toledo. Exciting stuff. So tomorrow is Sunday, in case you're watching this live and you don't know what day it is. Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, we're going to be on for our morning worship service, followed by our Bible study. So please do join us for that. Monday night, there should be a Bible study up on baptism. It'll be our conclusion for the baptism Bible study. Looking into next week, Wednesday night, 5 p.m., we have our Vespers service. Thursday night, 7 p.m., we're going to be... Thursday night, we're going to be doing the graduation, and there was a question about a list of the graduates. We will make that available to our congregation. I was just checking when that came through. It's not in the news and notes this week, but we'll make sure it's in for next week, and if you'd like it ahead of time, let us know. We can get that to you. So that's going on. One last thing, this is a plea. If you're with us right now online and you would like to be a part of making these streaming things happen, as Brian and Pastor Love were mentioning, we'd love to continue doing these things into the future. I'd love to help us make that happen, and so I'd love to train if anybody's willing to learn how to click the buttons. And so to make these things happen, we would like to continue doing this, and looking forward to live worship taking place on Sunday mornings instead of things as we've been doing them with a pre-recorded in the midst of a live setup. Anyways, all of this stuff we can help you learn how to help us do, and we would love if you're interested in helping out with that, get in touch with me. I pray you guys have a great day. I hope the weather's as good as it looked when I had to come in earlier, but looking forward to being with you all in person soon. God be with you.